Welcome to From an Educator. This is show number 75. In this show, we're talking about the word pathetic and actually how it applies to the current state of my life and possibly your life, especially in the US. I'll see you soon. Welcome back to From an Educator. I'm Mr. James, an educator, and welcome to show number 75. It was going to be a We Are the Educators episode, but once again, we weren't able to track down a time there where Mr. Ritchie and I would be able to get together and talk about this sort of thing. This has been a rough week for me. It's currently the 26th of September. It's a Sunday morning. I would have recorded this on a Thursday or Friday last week. Friday was a very rough day. I've had a couple of rough days as far as specific students or just situations where, with staff and such, that where maybe transitions weren't as comfortable as they should have been, or I had to do maybe a lot more work than I needed to do. And that was basically something that it's hard to let go during the week of. So if I would have recorded this Friday afternoon and I was ready to, I would probably be talking from a different standpoint than I will be today. I was somewhat upset about the way things were. I had a number of students in one specific class that just were completely disrespectful to me. And I had a sign about lining up that fell down and they stepped on it on the way out in a way that showed contempt. And we're going to be talking about that word today, as well as the word pathetic. And it's just one of these things where, as much as I've done similar lessons between classes and they work with almost everyone, there are some classes where it doesn't work because the students need to work on themselves more and they have behavior issues. And a lot of students now don't want to be at school because they want to be home playing video games like they've been able to do. And it's a really bad situation. And I think this is happening, it might be happening around the world. I hear a lot about it happening in the US, where students are just there. It's hard to get them back into a schedule and they feel like they don't belong in a schedule. They don't have to do anything. And this is like the future workforce. So it is going to be pretty horrible. I'm thinking about this, not living in the area or working in the area where I am currently. Over the next 5 years, I'm thinking of an exit plan because I think it's getting to a point where those that are going to be entering into the workforce, driving all of this stuff, there's going to be a lot of problems with them following rules and following the roles that they have to play in society, specifically following laws that we have set and doing everything like that. I mean, there's not enough jails and prisons for some of the behavior that I can foresee possibly happening. And we've had some things happening in the state recently that is disturbing. And I don't really want to go into that. You can always Google that, of course, find out what's going on in Maine. But it's just, I don't know. I don't like seeing it at this level, at like an elementary level, where students are defiant and disrespectful and just could care less about anything. Because it just means the middle school and the high school are going to really see horrible behaviors. And how do you deal with it? Are you threatening? Are you trying more compassionate ways to reach these students? What's working? And I'm going to take a little stance today in this episode and talk about how I'm going to approach this, because basically am constantly finding a new way to fix what I do and make it better. And even if it works for 99 students out of 100, and that one student doesn't work for, if I'm teaching something, I will change what I'm teaching so that I can find a way to reach that one student. And it could be the student having a bad day. And they always say that I have a bad day because someone might have yelled at them in another class, because something happened in their family that they could not stop and change before they got to school. They had to keep it with them. Or maybe they didn't eat something they wanted to eat, or they didn't get to eat, or there are so many issues going on. But here's the thing, and teachers know this, administrators often will blame the teacher for issues that are over the teacher's head that they can't do anything about. If a student's hungry, but I'm not a teacher that's a classroom teacher, so I don't have to feed the student. But the teacher acts out in my class, and I have to somehow reciprocate a punishment or some way to manage this behavior, I will be blamed about anything I do, even as nice as that might be, even though the student was hungry. I had nothing to do with any of that. And always comes back on the educator. And that's just not right. But everyone has to investigate everything as far as figuring out, what's going on with a student. But then it ends up coming back to the teacher. So the teacher has to be not just a person who's educating someone, whether it is talking about previous knowledge they have, or helping a student to be creative, helping them to put things together, previous things they've learned. But they also have to be a person in charge of behaviors. They have to be a person in charge of knowing psychologically what's happening with the student. And we see this basically through behaviors, and teachers have to be basically everything, just to diagnose anything at any moment. And they can't always help, because I won't have all the solutions. I might know what the solution is, but I might not have the solution. But then it's my fault. So, not saying that anything happened like that with any administration this week, but I know with situations like what happened this week with students being defiant and not listening, and with the ways that I'm able to manage behavior and them not responding to it, I know that could turn into a situation where I would be blamed for something that was out of my control, because I can't stop fights that happen before my class. And I see every grade every day. So they bring it to me, and I can't completely diffuse something in a short amount of time. So that's just a tiny little rant, without going into major details or getting upset about that. But that is the biggest thing that I think really gets me, is that I don't like when I see behaviors like that, but I also don't like that I would be blamed for something that has nothing to do with me and my teaching, because I go over my material very well and it works very well. And when it doesn't work with certain people, it has nothing to do with what I've done. It has to do with what they're going through. And I can't solve everyone's problems. I wish I could, but I can't. And I don't see them long enough to do that. When you see a person one time a week for 40 minutes, 10 of that is just getting them to sit in their seat and to listen to you. It's I have very little power in that domain. So you're going to see, hopefully, where I'm coming through and coming from with all of this stuff. So that's a little update, a little winded update about what's going on. I just wanted to explain that. It's something that every now and then, I'm hoping this is not going to happen, but I will, give updates as to what works. And maybe I'll even have you ponder, listener, watcher, if I am in the wrong about something, because I'm always questioning that all the time. I mean, I definitely go over my lessons in my head and I try things on classes, and I check to see that I've got engagement and it's inclusive for as many students as I possibly can. At the same time, I do have to progressively uh, move on with material, and it it's music that I'm teaching, so it can get more complicated than a simple steady beat and clapping. Um, so when we go there, if students don't listen and they just can't engage, I have to go with the majority. And I think that's very misunderstood uh, these days, where we have a lot of individual students getting a lot of attention. But the world doesn't work like that, right? Everybody has to be a part of a team somewhere in whatever role they're playing, work and everything. You're working with a team. You could have your own business, but you're kind of working as a one person team there, because you have to keep disciplined and motivated. So it's kind of like you're still working with others, but we have to work together. And the individualism that is constantly being talked about is not easy when it's one person and 20 students need individual attention. So, enough of that rant. Let's move on. So, pathetic. You probably have heard this word before. If you're watching this, you are seeing a picture that I have of, it looks like it's a romantic period. This is, and I think when I say romantic period, I'm thinking of the classical music. Well, classical is another period, but the sort of Western art music eras. There was music 500 years ago and older, called the Middle Age music, early music. I do play that on an instrument called a Renaissance lute. Renaissance period, you might have heard of the Renaissance period with art, visual art in music. After that was Baroque period, Bach, Vivaldi. Those might be names you've heard of. After that was the classical period. So Beethoven was classical period into the next period, but Mozart and Handel, Haydn, really big with that. Handel's kind of Baroque into classical. And then Romantic period after the classical period, romantic being more, well, romantic not meaning love, but being emotional. So Beethoven kind of bridged that gap into that. We get into Mendelssohn, and we get into Brahms. We get into some of the piano virtuosic players, Chopin, Liszt. And then we go into the modern, and these are composers we hear in even movies. John Williams, considered modern composer. Stravinsky, Mahler, getting into modern. Wagner, going from romantic into modern. So this is not about music history, but this time period that is pictured in this picture here looks to me to be romantic. Not because of what I'm looking at being a cello player, a piano player, and a singer, which would have happened in the Romantic period, because it turned less from many people playing music to more chamber, smaller ensembles, but also because of the look they have on their faces. Because if you look at artwork, visual artwork that is, from the 1600s, early 1700s, faces were less emotional. They didn't show that emotion on the face because the way art was, the way they had beliefs. And this does tie into religion, but I'm not going to talk about that. It's just about the fact this time period started to show emotion in paintings and all of that stuff. And we use this all the time when we pair it with music. So there's a lot of documentaries talking about parts of the world in Europe and where there's music in certain periods in music, and they show paintings from that time period, so we can kind of say, oh, okay, that's what it looks like, and that's how people would have dressed, and this and that. I do want to mention that I mentioned Western art music, but there is Eastern art music, and there's music we don't talk about, and it's unfortunate that the general education, college education for music history is to learn about Western art music. It is about European music. It's about everything coming out of Germany and that greater area. And it's sad because there's music all over the world, and they have their own little, evolution of what they did. And of course, music was heard one place and heard other places as well. And so, yeah, but I do a search on Google for the word pathetic, and this pops up, and I said, that is exactly, yes, what I'm talking about. So the definition of pathetic is having a capacity to move one to either compassionate or contemptuous pity. Compassionate, meaning like you're being nice to someone, you care about them, you feel bad for them, empathize with them. And contemptuous, feeling that they're lower than you, feeling that they're not worth anything, worthless. Or, like is used often in the US, the word loser, right? You're a loser. You lost at this. You lose at a lot of things. So the biggest thing in using this word and in thinking about this word, and this week, I saw situations in my life where I looked at people and I thought of that word pathetic. And how did I think about that word? Because you can think about that word looking at somebody and thinking that person is worthless, and you use the word pathetic. That person is pathetic. I can't believe they're doing that. That's pathetic. The way they treat me, that's pathetic. The way they treated this thing, that's pathetic. Their skill level is pathetic. That idea is something I see a lot, and I hear that all the time, and it's used as a generalization. And honestly, sometimes I feel myself fall into that trap. Oh, these students are pathetic. I can't believe they treat me like that, and they would treat any teacher, authority figure, like that. Then I think, okay, so on the other side of that, there's this pathetic, meaning someone is in need of pity. Someone is in need of help, and you can be the person to be compassionate to help them. So you can think in terms of that person is worthless and they don't deserve anyone's help, or that person feels they're worthless or hasn't been given worth, and you could be there to help them. And as much as I might get upset for certain things, it always blows over. And a day, maybe 2 days later, I realize the compassionate side of this word. So you have to really think in your life, where do others fall in this spectrum? And it's interesting that this one word, taken normally, and I say normally, which is generally how I hear it, to mean someone is worthless, can also mean someone is deserving of compassion. Someone needs compassion. Someone has a need and you can help them. This person is pathetic. They need help. They need empathy. Path is that word, pathos. So it also has to do with that word loser. So I mentioned in the show, probably a number of shows back, the word loser in the United States, right? We use the word loser to mean someone who is, not worth anything, right? They're worthless, or they lost at something and they constantly lose. Because you can lose something, but to be a loser it's like someone who constantly loses. Like, oh, they do this, they lose. They do that, they lose. In other countries, and especially in Europe, and this is something I heard on NPR years ago when they talked about that, they don't have a word like that, loser. Instead, they use the word somebody is in need of help and they are unfortunate. So feeling like somebody managed to make money and have a great job, they're fortunate. Somebody who didn't manage to do all that stuff, even if by their own means they held themselves down, someone who had some addiction to some sort of stimulant or whatever, or they just made bad decisions. Unfortunate. But it doesn't have that same sort of scorn as saying the word loser, right? So think about that. I mean, you could be thinking right now, like, wow, this person I know is such a loser. And you could be thinking like, wow, hold on, wait a minute. Do they deserve any sort of pity? Maybe some things weren't always their fault. And even if they were their fault, maybe they just were led astray somewhere. Maybe they ideologically, they were thinking the wrong way and they deserve some sort of compassion. Maybe they're just unfortunate, and to me, it has nothing to do with chance, luck, all these things. We were talking about fate, whatever. You're making it up for yourself, right? You're making things for yourself, which is something I have a problem with when thinking of this word pathetic and thinking of the word fortune and unfortunate, and trying to keep from falling into that trap of thinking of people as being not worth pity. So my big thing with this is for those that lack motivation, lack discipline, or have an indifference to impactful situations. So if you lack motivation, right? You're not motivated to do something. I'm just going to sit all down all day and I'm going to watch TV and just eat whatever. And I don't care. I have to do certain things, but I don't care. I'm pushing them aside. Who cares? That to me, I would think of the word pathetic sort of in that negative way, right? That person that's pretty pathetic. Like you should be motivated to do something and get things done. I mean, I see myself trying to stretch out a day as much as I possibly can and still be able to get some sleep. And my sleep this past week has been horrible because I've woken up thinking about things and I couldn't get back to sleep. And so, and I measure this thing. This wrist right here has got a device that measures my sleep, and it has not been good this week. It barely gets to the word good. And the word you want is very good. And so I've gotten around fair and just barely good. And that's not, and good is like almost 6 hours. So that's pretty bad for sleep. But I want to be motivated. I motivate myself all the time, motivated to do this episode. Now, I didn't have another person to help me with this, and I asked, but I'm doing it. Those that are not motivated, are they deserving of pity? Well, we have to wonder why they're not motivated. And that's another whole thing. And that's the thing. We don't know all the answers. So are they losers? So what about someone who's not disciplined? So I think motivation means you need to do something and you have some sort of impetus to do it. You need to sort of get yourself ready to do it. Discipline is something where you've done something a number of times and you're able to systematically do it. You have a schedule, an agenda. And those that don't have discipline, are they messing up somewhere? Are they losers? Are they pathetic in the negative way? Or maybe they just keep trying different things and it doesn't work for them. So then maybe they lose motivation. You see how they kind of go together right there? Lose motivation because the discipline I have doesn't work in the way I want to, so I lose my motivation for doing it. So there's some place you can actually help, right? You may be the person that can help them with that. Now, the last one, indifference to impactful situations, meaning there's a situation, it's going to affect you, but you try to remain hands off and let it affect you. Let it unfold without you intervening or having any say or any input to make it more of a positive situation. And kind of like someone getting hurt and you're just watching that happen and you're not stopping it from them getting hurt when you could have, where there's definitely a place where you can impact the situation. Is that pathetic? Is that person a loser that does that? How many times is a person put into that category of being a loser, being worthless because they didn't react to this? They didn't do that. Probably many, many times for many people. But now think about it. Why didn't they react to the situation? Were they thinking about something different? Maybe there's some inner reason why, and they have a good explanation, but maybe they can't really put into words, or maybe no one gives them the chance to. So you can see how if you look at a situation differently, it changes how you think of this word, pathetic. As a teacher, and I think in general as teachers, and using that loosely because of what I've seen, we show compassion foremost. We show compassion, even if it's an act for some, because I do see that, because we see what someone's going through and student, and we help them out. And we try to find a way to help them with a behavior issue, something they feel they need, questions. We show compassion. Now, I've seen teachers show contempt, and I've seen them upset, and they don't know where the student's coming from, but they don't care. They're going to have their say, and the student's going to listen, and they're going to try to put the fear into the student. And we've all heard that doesn't work. And it's one of those things where you want it to work so badly. You want someone to hear themselves be berated, and you want them to come out of that feeling better. I mean, I know teachers that want that to happen. They want to say something that will completely shut down a student's bad behavior and insubordinance, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You get more with compassion than you will with contempt. And that's how it always is. If they respect you, then they won't go past that certain level. They know that they just won't go there. So I have to always think about myself in class when I'm having students present these behaviors to not go to that level where I'm having contempt for them, because then I'm basically not going to treat them with the respect that they need, but also I may choose words that make others feel bad. And that's another big thing that happens when you have you're hosting a number of students in your class, and one student wants the attention. You're talking to everybody when you're talking to that one student. So you have to be compassionate. You have to find a compassionate way to say things that make students listen. And hey, guess what? That's a great thing to write down. Write a few sentences down that can be your go-to sentences for that. And just be like, boom, throw that out there. And sometimes it may sound like the most bubblegum, happy-go-lucky thing to say, and it may feel horrible to say it, because you'd be like, this sounds so sweet and completely fake. But if you say it enough, you'll believe it and they will. And that's compassion. You can pull yourself into compassion. So the last little bit about this, and hopefully that wasn't a lot of dull information that's kind of useful, is I think everyone needs to know their place. Now, students this year, I found a number of students, not everybody, and certainly not the majority, but a number of students need to know their place. They need to know what grade they're in. They need to know that they're a student and there are teachers. They need to know that there are those that are in charge and they need to follow directions, because everybody has a very tight agenda. Everybody has to do something. Everybody has to go someplace. And they can't interrupt that because it's not, everyone's following that. That's the biggest thing. And I mentioned that to students often, like, everyone here has a huge agenda. And I show them, because I have a list of all the classes I teach and the weird order that it's in. And I show them what's happening, where they are. They know their grade. They see their grade and they go, oh, we're the third or fourth class today. And I go, yeah, I have 7. And I'm not saying I'm going to enjoy going through the motions, which I never do, but I'm not going to say I'm going to enjoy teaching maybe a certain grade level or a certain class that day for some other reason or not. I would say, but look at, I have this to look forward to, and I want the students to know that, and they can, and I see indifference for that. I feel like they don't really know their place when they feel like, oh, who cares? Whatever. I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm just kind of like skirting around and not following the schedule. No, you need to know your place. And that's not your place. Your place is in following these structures that we have set up. Because guess what? If you keep showing up, we're going to keep doing the same schedule. I'm going to do it enough until you give up. And that's basically, I think, what school does, is it eventually wears everyone down so that they do fall in line. And the only problem is the process of getting there can take a lot longer than it should for some students. And I'm just hoping it changes for a lot right now, because 1 month in, it's still not looking so good. Hard work is a prerequisite for all. So listen up, teachers, listen up, students, young, old, whatever, whoever's listening to this. Hard work is a prerequisite for everything that you want. Hard work pays off. Hard work doesn't have to be physical hard work. It could be mental hard work. It could be you leaving a relationship, getting divorced. It could be you making a huge life change. It could be you thinking about what you need to do next in life or whatever you're doing. Hard work is the prerequisite. You have to work at things and you have to get good at it. You have to. You're all going to go through the same horrible things, in some way or another, that every other person is. People in your life are going to die. Things that you love are going to die or end. You're going to face grief. You're going to face hardship. Hard work is the prerequisite. You'll get through it. You have to be resilient. You have to have grit. And this word's used a lot, grit, resilience, to get knocked down and get up and keep moving. It's going to it has to happen, because it's going to happen to everybody. I wish there was a way out. I wish there was a way not to do it, but there is no other way. I wake up early in the morning and work out. Now I know it's not even about looking good and all of this stuff. It's really about me being able to have the grit to get through the day. It used to be a win. I have a win in the morning. I got to exercise. Now it's like, if I don't have the energy for the day. And I feel like I'm a slave to it. So I've been changing my workouts around and changing things so I can enjoy it more. But that's what it is. It's hard work. So if I put the hard work in there, maybe everything else the day is not as hard. It's frame of mind. Earn your compassion or you deserve contempt. If you have that frame of mind, you will change your behavior. You will change how you reflect on others throughout every day. If you want to earn compassion for someone, find a way so you can earn compassion, or else they're probably going to feel that you're worthless. In general, my line of work, what I do is, receives a lot of contempt. I get told that I'm not a real teacher. I get told my class is just fun. It's not about learning. It's about just having fun. I get told that I'm just a break for classroom teachers. All of this stuff is told, and it's kind of like just well known. It's a podcast I listen to where she opens up. This woman opens up talking about the fact that you may feel like you're on an island. You may feel like no one respects you and it's like that. Yeah, all the time. But I'm doing things proactively so I can earn compassion. And that's pretty much what I have to do every single day in all I do. Think about that. Well, hopefully the show wasn't too dramatic or too heavy for anyone. I want to thank you for listening to show number 75, watching and listening at the same time. I'm glad that I did not do the show a few days earlier and maybe say some things that I might, I'm not going to say regret, because I do put this out public, and who knows who listens to this. But I wasn't in the best frame of mind then, because I focused on situations, and I was upset that somebody would, in this case, what I think really upset me is I saw a student who gave me a face during class and was constantly disruptive walk out, and I had a sign that fell down, and they purposely stepped on it and kind of worked their foot into the ground like they were kind of like putting a cigarette out, in a way of contempt, like, your sign means nothing to me. This class means nothing to me. And that just says, that image sent me like, wow, this person would probably, if they were left to their own in my room, would probably start breaking instruments or vandalize things. But something's going around about people defacing and vandalizing schools. And of course, take a video of it so you can put on your TikTok account so you can get likes, because getting likes and getting a lot of people to say, oh, fun, that's great, give my attention to you so you can get likes and maybe eventually get money or whatever everyone's looking for. Is it narcissism? Is it money? What do you want? Ask those that are interested in that. What do you want? What is it that you're after? Because it's fleeting. Whatever it is, it's fleeting. It's going to go away. It's not going to feel good after a certain time. I do gigs. I teach music lessons. I get money. It goes away. I forget about it. I buy something. I like it. I use it. The thrill of having it goes away. Usually, for me, usually nothing lasts long now. So buying anything is not like a big thing. Like, oh, it's gonna change my life stuff. It's just like, here's another thing that I need. So as you get older, it just becomes whatever. It's something you have to let in your life, and you have to find a way to use it. But it's not the giddiness that happens when you're younger and you get something. You're like, oh, I'm so excited about this. Now it's like, how does this fit in my life? But think about the word pathetic. Are you going to use it in a compassionate way? Are you going to use it in a way that shows contempt, thinking that someone's worthless? I think everybody has worth. And if you want to wrap this entire episode up with this thought, think about this. Everybody deserves compassion. The hardest thing is to find out how they need it and how to give it to them. Thanks for watching.